This next clip was uploaded a full decade ago, making it easily the oldest entry on our list. And yet, it continues to disturb everyone who comes across it. The handful of people who have actually seen it simply cannot account for what the camera picked up. In the footage, a woman is dancing alone at a gathering when something in the background suddenly draws the eye. See for yourself what the camera recorded. A small child, clear as day, simply vanishes while making their way up a staircase. It happens in an instant, almost suspiciously fast, giving the whole thing an undeniably eerie quality. What makes it even more unsettling is that, according to the person who filmed this, there were no children at the party whatsoever. So if that's true, who exactly was that figure? And perhaps more pressingly, how did they disappear in mere seconds without a trace? Just like so many of these cases, no one has managed to come up with a satisfying explanation. This next encounter comes from John of Exploration Unknown, and it unfolds at one of Canada's most deeply unsettling locations, a stretch locals have long referred to as the Devil's Elbow. That name isn't just colourful branding, it's rooted in the history of the very house John is investigating, a property once occupied by people with serious ties to occult practices and ritualistic activity. Over the decades, the stories, the symbolism, and the whispered rumors surrounding this place have grown into something far more substantial than your average urban legend. John starts his walkthrough in the basement, a tight, cold, gutted out space that offers nothing alarming on the surface. No belongings left behind, no furniture, just the hollow bones of a building that already feels deeply off the moment you're inside it. He makes his way upward, clearing each floor as he goes, until he reaches the second level. That's the moment everything changes. While he's scanning the upper rooms, something moves below him. Not settling floorboards, not a stray animal, but actual footsteps, deliberate and weighted, impossible to dismiss. He descends immediately, sweeping through every room. Nothing, silence, not a soul to be found. But when he looks back toward the staircase, he'd just come down. The lights on the floor above, lights that had been off the entire time, are now on. John calls out, forcing himself to stay composed. "Hello? Is someone here?" He explains aloud that he has no bad intentions, that he's simply there to document the property.
Hello? Is there somebody here? I'm not here to bother or rob anything. I was just here exploring. I thought it was a band.
Then John runs. It's the kind of full-body sprint that happens when your nervous system stops waiting for permission. You can watch his legs nearly buckle as he fights his way out the door. His breathing ragged, his camera swinging wildly as he tears down the driveway. There's nothing performed about this. It's pure survival instinct kicking in after a threat that felt that immediate and that close. The footage wraps up with John still rattled, putting as many miles as he can between himself and the Devil's Elbow.
What room is that? It's the room right above him. It should be 209.
John, do you copy?
Was pulled straight from a hotel's security system. Terrified screaming had been echoing out of room 209, and a staff member by the name of John was dispatched to go check it out.
Says the carpet's been ripped up and that the shower is on.
John stepped inside without hesitation, vanishing beyond the camera's line of sight. Upon returning to the hallway, he described finding every piece of furniture flipped completely upside down, the kind of thing that gets chalked up to poltergeist activity. Shortly after John went in, something unseen can be spotted moving away from the room, and from that moment on, the screaming stopped entirely. So was this spirit deliberately drawing attention to itself, hoping someone would finally give it a way out? On May 13th, 2020, a man by the name of Darren Boyle posted a video to the Daily Mail's website documenting a truly shocking and deeply disturbing event. The footage appeared to capture a deceased individual moving his hand from within a closed coffin. This unsettling incident unfolded during a funeral ceremony in the city of Manado, situated in Indonesia's North Sulawesi province. The casket featured a glass panel on its surface, and at some point during the service, the body inside was observed raising its hand and bringing it toward that glass. For a brief moment, every single person in attendance stood completely frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. Fear swept through the crowd almost immediately, with many terrified that the man had been wrongly pronounced dead while still breathing. The clip spread like wildfire across social media platforms, sparking serious public debate about the dangers of premature burial. Medical professionals later attributed the movement to post-mortem muscular activity, an uncommon but scientifically documented occurrence. Despite that explanation, those who had been there in person maintained that what they saw didn't look anything like a natural reflex, with some going so far as to describe it as a paranormal experience. No formal investigation ever concluded that the man had still been alive, yet the video continues to haunt viewers to this day and leaves just about everyone who watches it deeply unsettled. Here he is speaking with a law enforcement officer following something terrifying that he simply couldn't make sense of.
That is scary. Like, that gave me chills the first few times.
Right.
I don't know how scared I am.
This man was forced to contact the police regarding his ex-wife because he feared something sinister might be happening to her, or that she might be a danger to others, after receiving a series of deeply unsettling voicemails. Watch what unfolds.
So I'm pulling up. This is from last night. Did you saw the email I sent you? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you want to go through these again, but I don't know if you listen to them. They're fucking scary.
Clearly something's going on with her. Like, that's not normal behavior.
I don't know how you make your voice sound like that.
Right. We wanted to file charges on you or Camila for dropping the kids off to her parents' house when nobody was there. And I'm like, and she was claiming that it's neglect, and I'm like, that's not neglect. You know, the kids are old enough, I think,
Saturday,
you know.
Sunday, so we didn't even have kids Saturday.
But she's talking back like
this was something happened prior.
Yeah.
It's obvious the ex-wife has her own grievances against him, but the content of those voicemails has left him genuinely frightened. And once the officer listens to them herself, she recommends he pursue a no-contact order.
The kids right now.
They're at school. They're in my custody.
Okay, so you had them last night when these voicemails were coming in?
And I saw them this morning. And that is scary. Like, that gave me chills the first few times. And I was talking to my barber today. It's at what point does she decide to do something actually crazy?
Right.
And I don't know how scared I have to actually be.
It really sounds like you need to proceed with like a no contact order.
Yeah.
But I mean, that doesn't sound like she's in her right state of mind at all. No. So it's like
if she had my kids last night, I would be really fucking scared.
Absolutely,
I
I
would be
agree.
calling you to go check on them because I couldn't tell if that was my daughter screaming for help or what the that noise is.
Right.
So I'd be freaking out. Luckily they were with me and I'm not concerned about them, but they are going to go back with her.
All right. Do me a favor and play them. Just because I have what you sent me and I'll submit those already,
camera.
But just to put them on camera, yeah.
So, you Jesus, help, please. Oh, respect your mama. Please, your mom. Three, you fucking the fucking nuggets, come on, you can't have a you fucking make it ready, oh, never you kill the family, I want to yes, I want it. You marry him back, and you want everybody to jail for your love. You fuck alive, you stay there, you're alive, you're alive, you're alive. I'm dead, I'm dead. Leave us alone. You gotta everybody.
Throughout the recording, his ex-wife's voice shifts dramatically several times, and his belief is that she sounds like someone who's been possessed. She has no known history of substance abuse, and this alarming behavior apparently emerged completely out of the blue. At certain points, she seems to be crying out for help, while at others, she claims she's already dead, and at times, she appears to be speaking in tongues. His biggest concern is the safety of their children when custody rotates back to her. The officer, after listening to everything, shared that concern. And now a physical arrest is being made. So does this woman need an exorcism? Whatever the truth turns out to be, one can only hope she receives the help she needs, though we may never get a real answer. Here's a chilling clip from a TikTok creator who goes by Glenny Boy. Now, Glenn doesn't run a paranormal account. His page is primarily a casual everyday vlog. But not long ago, he began noticing strange footsteps echoing through his kitchen and unexplained sounds drifting from his son's room. Then one night, a thunderous banging from the kitchen jolts him awake, and he grabs his camera to go find out what's going on.
It's fucking happening again. I'm hearing banging again. I don't know where it's coming from. The fuck? That's in the fucking dining room. That's in the kids' room. What is going on? Seriously? What is that? What is that? Why's the light off? What is going... What the fuck? What the... What on earth? What? Fuck this.
He heads to the kitchen first. The lights are burning and nothing looks immediately out of place. But then a sound pulls his attention down the hallway toward his kid's room. He leaves the kitchen, lights still on, and hurries to check on whatever made the noise. The room is completely empty. Then, without warning, a tremendous crash erupts from the very kitchen he walked out of just moments before. He sprints back. What he finds stops him cold. The lights he absolutely left switched on are now off. When he flicks them back on, the room is in complete disarray. Every single cabinet door has been flung wide open, and the sink is blasting water at full force. Shaken to his core, he tries to retreat from the room, but whatever is there isn't finished with him yet. The kitchen door slams shut directly in his face, cutting off his escape for a brief, terrifying moment. Now, the visual destruction alone is unsettling, but did you catch the audio? Let's go back to the moment he rushes into that darkened kitchen. Right before he hits the light switch, listen carefully.
What the?
You can unmistakably hear heavy footsteps pounding away from him into the darkness, as though something was bolting out of the room the instant he walked in. Since the video went up, Glenn has gone completely silent. Not a single follow-up or explanation. So was this an elaborate stunt engineered for viral fame? Or did a destructive poltergeist tear through his kitchen in the span of a few seconds? That's for you to decide. The videos you're about to see come from a TikTok account belonging to a woman named Catalina, whose username is displayed on your screen right now. A couple of days back, a rat had managed to find its way into the laundry room of her home, and as the family worked to chase it out, her daughter filmed the entire ordeal. Everyone treated it as a light-hearted moment at the time, but after going back and watching the footage again, they began to suspect the camera had picked up something far more disturbing than a stray rodent.
I'm waiting for it to come out. There's this huge freaking rat in our living room. Our living room and our laundry room right now. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh wait, okay, wait, let me try to open the door. Hold on. Oh my god, it's right there in the basket. Oh my god. Mom, you gotta get it. Mom, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Get the baby, Mom.
When Catalina reviewed the recording, she spotted something lurking just behind the door. For a brief moment, what looks like a dark, shadowy figure appears to be watching them from within the laundry room. She said the image shook her immediately, partly because that particular area of the house had always given her an uneasy feeling. Even well before this moment occurred, she explained, there was always something unsettling about that laundry room that she could never quite shake.
This is the hallway that me and my daughter saw the rat go into our cat door in our laundry room here. For some reason, I never felt comfortable in here. I felt very claustrophobic, and I always felt like there was something always watching me in that corner. It's not surprising that we caught something in that window. It's very odd, and it makes me feel so uncomfortable. I like to think that it was my grandmother because she was always close to me, and I've always felt like she was around me and protecting me all the time. And I don't think that it's anything demonic.
Even so, Catalina doesn't believe whatever is present in her home means them any harm. In fact, she thinks it might be the spirit of her late grandmother, someone she was incredibly close to during her lifetime. And shortly after the shadow figure was caught on camera, yet another unexplained moment was accidentally recorded inside the house, this time involving her son. Catalina says he enjoys riding an RC car equipped with a built-in camera around the rooms of their home, and during one of those sessions, the footage captured something no one was expecting. As her son steers the car around, he starts following the family dog from room to room. The second the car rolls into the laundry room, however, strange, disembodied voices begin echoing in the background, and then the situation takes an even stranger turn. As the car trails the dog toward the outside, a tile that had been sitting completely motionless suddenly shoots off the ground and lands near the automatic door. A number of viewers pointed out that it almost appears as though the tile was deliberately hurled at the vehicle. Catalina later posted a follow-up video addressing what happened.
So you will not believe me if I told you that these tiles were just here and one just flew up in the air. There was no wind, nothing to cause it. And these were pretty much really stuck together. Really stuck together. As you can see, when I pull this one apart, it's very hard. And it just flew up. And my son caught it on his camera. It was very odd, very strange. It's never happened to us before. I don't know how it happened or what made it happen.
She continues to hold onto the belief that the presence in her home is her grandmother's spirit, there to watch over the family, though a large portion of her viewers aren't convinced and feel it's something with far darker intentions. She hasn't come forward with any significant updates since then, so the question remains, what do you believe is actually going on here? Is it truly the spirit of a loving grandmother, or could something far more sinister be lurking inside that house? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. One night, a woman named Lawrence was making her way down a nearly deserted highway. The road was eerily quiet, with almost no other vehicles in sight. As she moved along in the left lane, she suddenly noticed what she initially mistook for a stumbling drunk man directly in her path. Whatever it was, it grabbed her attention instantly and sent a chill straight through her. And then it became clear. A dark figure was standing motionless in the middle of the road just ahead. A jagged black silhouette, completely still, showing no reaction whatsoever as her headlights bore down on it. It seemed entirely oblivious to the fact that a car was hurtling toward it. Lawrence yanked the wheel to avoid a collision, narrowly missing whatever that thing was. Fortunately, her dash cam was rolling and captured every second of the encounter. But the question she was left with haunted her long after. Just what exactly had been standing out there on that highway in the dead of night? A security guard monitoring the camera feeds inside a manufacturing facility captured this footage. While scanning the screens, he spots a welder pulling a solo night shift, but something about what he's watching doesn't sit right. He radios the welder over and describes what he's noticed, and the welder is equally baffled by the situation. The welder mentions that a colleague had come by earlier in the evening, despite that colleague having the day off. The two men had a brief conversation and even exchanged a handshake, yet when they pull up the recording, the welder's co-worker is nowhere to be seen. The welder is adamant that he saw the man standing right there, dressed in his full work gear and apparently ready for a shift, but the camera shows him reaching out and shaking hands with nothing but thin air. Things take a deeply unsettling turn when the factory receives word that the co-worker in question had died at his home on that very same day. What caused his death has never been determined. Was the welder somehow visited by his colleague's spirit in those final hours? Or could there be a rational explanation hiding somewhere in the details? As of right now, nobody has a definitive answer. A young man by the name of Tristan had been dealing with unsettling occurrences in his apartment for several weeks. It began with minor things, like loud banging sounds coming from empty rooms. But then one evening, things took a turn that simply couldn't be rationalized. See for yourself what the camera captured. The curtain rod directly behind him started spinning wildly, despite every window in the room being shut tight. Over the following days, things only continued to escalate. Here's where it gets even harder to dismiss. The moment he stepped into the room, one of the chairs jerked away from the table completely on its own. Shortly after that, Tristan picked up on a strange scratching noise coming from somewhere near his front door. Suspecting there might be somebody on the other side, he quietly pulled out his phone and hit record. As he crept toward the door, the handle suddenly started twisting back and forth by itself, almost as though some unseen presence was frantically trying to force its way in. So what's your take on this? A restless spirit? A djinn? Or something else entirely? Paul Javalas, out of Sacramento, California. Paul says he was taking an early morning stroll through McKinley Park when he spotted something deeply out of the ordinary happening at the playground area. With nobody else in sight, he grabbed his phone and started recording. Here's what he managed to capture on camera.
What the heck? I've been watching it for a few minutes now. What is going on here? What is going on? There's no wind. There is absolutely, look at the trees. There's absolutely no wind. What the heck? And it is not stopping. That is bizarre. Tell me that's not weird. What the heck? and it still keeps going.
When you really examine this playground footage up close, coming up with any kind of rational explanation gets pretty tough. Dead center in the shot, a single swing is pumping back and forth with real force, and nothing is pushing it. As Paul cautiously approaches the swing set to get a better look, the swing doesn't lose a single bit of its momentum. Knowing full well what the skeptics would say, he deliberately tilts his camera up toward the trees to demonstrate that there is zero wind moving through the area that morning. But the most convincing detail of all is right there beside the mystery swing. An identical swing hanging just inches away on the very same frame isn't moving even slightly. That haunted swing kept up the exact same pace for the entire duration of the recording. Home renovations can be a thrilling experience. They can uncover all sorts of unexpected surprises hidden within the walls and structure of a house. And occasionally, those surprises are enough to send a chill straight down your spine. One particular homeowner had some work being carried out on their ceiling, which left an opening into the roof cavity for several days. Late one evening, he found himself alone in the house. The construction crew had been gone for hours, and he was in the kitchen preparing a meal when an unsettling feeling crept over him, the distinct sensation that he wasn't alone. He couldn't quite place it until his eyes drifted upward toward the gap in the ceiling. Shaken but too curious to walk away, he grabbed his stepladder and shone a flashlight up into the space above. It looked completely empty. He tried to shake it off and returned to his cooking, but just minutes later, the feeling came rushing back, and this time, so did the sight. He reached for his phone and hit record. The footage was difficult to make out at first, but once the brightness was boosted, something became visible, what appeared to be a figure crouched up in the roof cavity, peering directly down at him. He only captured a few seconds before retreating from the room and calling a friend over to investigate. Together, they searched the space above the ceiling and found absolutely nothing. When the homeowner eventually shared the clip on social media, the debate erupted immediately. Some viewers argued it was a straightforward case of pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find recognizable shapes within random patterns of shadow and light. But others were convinced something far more sinister was at play, suggesting the presence of some kind of paranormal entity. The homeowner himself leans toward the latter explanation, pointing out that the eerie feeling of being watched had already gripped him before he ever looked up, even though, as far as he knew, he was completely alone. New Year's Eve is supposed to be all about fireworks and celebration. The last thing you'd expect is something unsettling, unfolding right outside your own back door. A woman named Carmen gets a notification from her backyard security camera. She pulls up the footage without much concern, figuring it's probably nothing. But what she finds makes her stomach drop. In the dead of night, a pale figure can be seen moving along the fence line, drifting slowly through the yard. It glides in and out of the camera's frame as it goes. The entire space is enclosed and belongs solely to Carmen. Nobody should have access to it. This shape materializes without any warning whatsoever. And what makes it so deeply unsettling is the fact that in a fully sealed off area like this, there is simply no logical explanation for someone or something to appear and then vanish without a trace. A chilling and unexplained clip was uploaded to Reddit by a man who says the footage came from a security camera positioned outside his friend's home. He explains that his friend would tragically pass away just a few months after this was posted, and that the recording itself was taken only 2 weeks before that death occurred. Late one night, the camera picked up something that's genuinely hard to shake. See for yourself. Out of nowhere, a semi-transparent shape in the form of a man materialized, slowly drifting toward a parked car before disappearing in an instant in a way that defies any easy explanation. The person who shared the video points out that the car visible in the footage is the exact same vehicle in which his friend would later lose his life, 2 weeks after this figure showed up on camera. That detail alone has led a lot of viewers to wonder whether what appeared that night had something to do with what came next. A young Brazilian man started posting footage of what he describes as paranormal activity occurring inside his house. Things took a significantly darker turn in March 2025. However, when one particular clip went viral with over 18 million views, because what he recorded that night is enough to send chills down just about anyone's spine. Sometime in the dead of night, he woke up with an overwhelming sense that something was watching him. Glancing over toward the other side of the bed, he quickly realized that feeling wasn't just in his head. Something was actually there, lying beside him, fixing him with a deeply unsettling stare. The instant he finally musters the nerve to confront it, the figure vanishes without a trace. Assuming it might have all been a trick of the mind, he heads to the kitchen to collect himself. But the moment he returns, he's met with this. A horrifying shape can be seen hovering completely still in the middle of the room. It just hangs there, eyes locked on him, before suddenly plunging downward, startling him so severely that he cuts the recording right then and there. A lot of viewers are fully convinced this young man is genuinely being tormented by some kind of supernatural presence. Others are equally certain the whole thing was carefully staged for views. But whether it's authentic or not, there's no denying just how deeply unsettling this footage is. One morning, a woman named Cheyenne is looking after her 2-year-old daughter when the little girl comes out with something completely unexpected.
Okay, who is it?
Daddy. Daddy's right there.
Is it your daddy?
No, it's your daddy.
Is where?
Daddy's right there.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, show me.
See?
Oh.
Your daddy's missing you.
My daddy's missing me?
That's your dad.
Let's go get him. Where'd he go?
In you.
Okay, show me.
It seems the child may be describing Cheyenne's late father, which is especially unsettling given that her daughter never had the chance to meet her grandfather, and Cheyenne herself was barely old enough to walk when he passed. So Cheyenne pulls out a photograph, and her daughter immediately identifies the man in the picture as the same figure she spotted standing in their hallway.
Yes?
Yes, it looks like that.
Daddy. Daddy. Daddy.
Yeah? And Mabel, what does your ghost do?
No.
What did you say he gave you?
Heart.
A heart?
Daddy. Daddy.
Uh-huh.
Then, just 2 days later, it happens all over again.
Don't see me.
What sees you? The ghost? What are you talking about?
Come on.
jar scared me, and you already freaked me out.
Cheyenne mentions that her daughter still occasionally has conversations with whatever presence she's been sensing, a figure the little girl has since nicknamed Daddy Ghost. That said, Cheyenne admits that some of the comments she's received online have left her feeling a little uneasy.
She's only had an experience like that 2 or 3 times. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, I try to capture it on video. I also had a lot of comments saying that it wasn't like something nice. It was something mean. That freaked me out, so don't say that again. A lot of people were telling me don't communicate with it. I'm not. I'm scared. She is, and she doesn't understand. So, tell him, Mabel.
So could it be that Cheyenne's daughter is actually catching glimpses of her grandfather's spirit, dropping in from the other side? April 1920, a young man named Noah set out on a solo truck camping trip through the forests of Sun River, Oregon. While driving around, he stumbled across what looked like the ideal remote spot and pushed further into the wilderness. But on that very first night, he was jolted awake by something outside making noise. He strained to listen, and what he heard were footsteps, and the rhythm of them didn't match any animal he could think of. He reached for his GoPro and hit record.
Sleeping in the back of my truck right now. I don't even know what time it is. And there's someone walking around my truck right now. If you can hear that, it's pretty loud. He's been walking around for like 20 minutes already. I don't really know what to do. I'm a little freaked out right now. And it's like pitch black outside. And like, this doesn't make any sense because I parked somewhere where you couldn't see. No one was on that road. Wait, he's touching my truck. How am I supposed to get him away? He's literally knocking. He's literally knocking on my truck. The canopy, the back door's locked right there. I'm scared forever. I don't think he knows that there's anyone in here.
Whatever was lurking out there then started banging on the truck and yanking at the door handles, while Noah sat completely still inside, too terrified to move, just listening. Fortunately, he'd locked up before bed, and that was the only thing standing between him and whatever was out there. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps gradually disappeared into the dark. Come sunrise, Noah wasted no time getting back to the main road and driving straight home. It wasn't until later that he made a chilling discovery: handprints smeared across his entire truck. On the rear window, positioned as though someone had been peering in, and all over the door handles, exactly where someone had been trying to force their way inside.
Handprints there, a lot of scratches, stuff like that. Dragging his finger on my side of my truck. Well, looks like to be trying to get inside my truck. That's really all I could tell from when he was walking around. More handprints trying to get in my truck. At least the back canopy was locked, but
the mere fact that a person was wandering around out there in the middle of the night is deeply disturbing. It wasn't law enforcement, nobody announced themselves, and there wasn't a single source of light out there in that pitch black forest. Even now, nobody has ever come forward with any explanation for what took place. Jess is a certified nursing assistant who frequently pulls night shifts at an aging children's hospital in Maine, a facility that's long been shadowed by unsettling rumors tied to an abandoned psychiatric ward somewhere within its walls. Late one night, while working entirely on her own, she suddenly picked up on something deeply off in the corridor ahead of her. Take a close look at what the camera captured.
Nobody here, right? Nobody here. What is that? Because it is not me. This is me leaving, closing the door. What is that? And here comes the door back opening. And nobody's there. But yet. Hi.
Reflected in the glass of a nearby door, a dark, shadowy figure appeared to be standing right on the other side of the hallway. Jess kept swinging the camera back toward that corridor to get a better look, and at one point, the door itself began to swing open with no one touching it. Once the footage made its rounds online, viewers wasted no time coming up with their own explanations. One of the more chilling theories floating around was that the dark shape was actually a manifestation of death, a presence that appears near someone in their final hours. And then the story took an even darker turn. Jess later came forward and confirmed that one of the patients under her care that night passed away the following day. What made a lot of people take this seriously was her online history. Before this clip surfaced, she had never posted anything paranormal. Her content was almost entirely about her daily routine and her life working at the hospital, which convinced many that the terror in her response was absolutely real. So what's your take on what was actually there? This footage was captured inside a man's house after he began hearing strange thumping noises coming from his basement. Initially, it was the kind of sound most people would rationalize away. Aging pipes, the structure shifting, maybe something toppling off a shelf. But according to him, this was different, loud, repetitive, deliberate. So he picks up his phone and makes his way toward the basement door, and you can already sense the dread in his voice before he even descends the stairs. As he enters the cluttered, unfinished basement, concrete floor, piled boxes, bare walls, the disturbances suddenly become much harder to dismiss.
Started hearing banging coming from the basement, which has not happened yet before. There it is. There it is. What the f? What the f? Let's go and check this out. Sketchy shit happening in this house, man. No way, it's coming from upstairs now. Holy shit. What the fuck? Why are you doing this? Now, what the? Oh no.
Without any warning, a metal stand is violently flung to the ground, clattering loudly across the floor and reverberating through the space. Before he can even process what just occurred, the banging seems to shift above him, now originating from the ceiling overhead. He panics and bolts back upstairs. But what's waiting for him in the kitchen is somehow worse. Every cabinet door and drawer has been flung wide open, as though something tore through the room while he was down below. Then another crash erupts from the living room, sending a red lampshade swinging in wild arcs. Nothing is visible, nobody is present. yet the disturbances appear to trail him from room to room, almost as if something is tracking his every move. Some viewers think this points to poltergeist activity, the type of haunting associated with aggressive physical phenomena, hurled objects, and thunderous unexplained impacts. Skeptics might argue the whole thing was staged, but the man's breathing sounds genuinely labored and frantic throughout the footage. Then the second portion of the video shifts us to an entirely different location, a dilapidated building whose owner had reported unsettling noises coming from the upper floor. Someone is brought in to look into it, and as they ascend the staircase, they describe an intense sensation that something is right on their heels. At the top, they spin around, but there's nothing there. Pay close attention to what comes next. A still photograph taken on that same staircase captures something the person apparently failed to notice in the moment. Down in the alcove below, a large, hazy form appears to hang near the steps, semi-transparent, pale, and roughly resembling the upper half of a human figure. Some viewers instantly labeled it an apparition, while others pointed to more grounded explanations like dust particles, motion blur, disturbed air, or camera exposure settings. But the shape is defined enough to give people pause. And when you factor in that overwhelming sensation of being followed up the stairs, the image becomes considerably harder to write off as a random smear of light. So what exactly was behind them on that staircase? A photographic artifact? Or something otherworldly lurking just out of sight? A Reddit user going by the name BenFarrell3333 uploaded footage to the alien subreddit a few weeks back, claiming it was recorded above Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada on April 19th, 2026. In the opening seconds, we see Ben capturing the nighttime scene around him before tilting the camera skyward and revealing something that's hard to look away from. Suddenly, a luminous object with a strikingly odd shape becomes visible, suspended in the air above the base. It has a somewhat disc-shaped appearance, ringed by multiple rows of lights and emitting a vivid blue glow from its underside, a combination that bears little resemblance to any standard aircraft. What really grabs your attention, though, is just how completely still it sits in the sky. That stillness, paired with its unusual lighting and form, gives the whole moment an almost otherworldly quality. It's not hard to understand why UFO enthusiasts are latching onto this clip, particularly considering where it was filmed and what the object looks like. Sadly, Ben didn't offer much of an explanation in the comments section, leaving almost no context around the circumstances of the recording. That makes it genuinely tough to determine whether there's a straightforward answer here or whether this is something far stranger. So what's your take? What do you think was hovering over Nellis Air Force Base that night? In the following clip you're about to watch, a Blink security camera mounted high on a wall captures something strange in the hallway of a home late at night. A teenager noticed his cat acting strange. Not the usual zoomies or chasing something across the floor, but deliberately trying to get his attention, persistent enough that he eventually did what you're apparently supposed to do when a cat leads you somewhere. He followed it. The cat takes him straight to his brother and sister's room, and he goes in. And then, after a few moments inside, he comes back out with an urgency that tells you everything you need to know about what he found in there. Not a slow walk, not a casual exit, but the kind of sprint that your body produces when your brain has already decided that whatever is behind you is not something you want to be near. Now, the camera doesn't show us what he saw inside that room, and honestly, that might be worse, because what he said he saw was a 7-foot-tall black figure standing in there, in his sibling's room, in a house where a cat apparently knew it was there before any person did. In paranormal research, animals consistently demonstrate awareness of presences that humans can't perceive, registering something in the electromagnetic or sensory range that we lost access to somewhere along the way. And a cat that leads someone directly to the room where an entity is standing isn't acting randomly, it's communicating. So what do you think? Was there something 7 feet tall waiting in that room? Or did the cat lead him somewhere? His imagination did the rest of the work. In this next clip, a night security guard is doing his rounds at work. Glass door in front of him. The kind of quiet, uneventful shift that makes up most of the job. He's been working this post long enough that he knows every sound and every shadow in that building, which is exactly why he started filming when he noticed something he couldn't explain. He flips the camera to the front-facing view, points it toward the glass door, and what he catches on the other side of that glass stops him cold. Watch.
Es solo un video. El video. ¿Alguien vio los dedos?
Right there at the handle of the door. Fingers, visible through the glass, pressed against it from the outside, and then slowly, deliberately withdrawn, pulled back into the darkness, the way you'd pull your hand away if you suddenly realized you'd been seen. Not a smear, not a reflection, not light playing off the surface. Fingers, with the kind of slow, intentional movement that puts them in a completely different category from anything environmental. And this isn't the first time he's noticed something at that door. He makes that clear. This is just the first time he had a camera running when it happened. In paranormal research, liminal spaces like building entrances, lobbies, and glass thresholds are considered hotspots for activity precisely because they exist between two states, inside and outside, safe and exposed, known and unknown. And whatever presses itself against that boundary isn't lost or wandering, it's probing. So what do you think? Is something testing that door from the other side? Or does this guard have a very human problem he hasn't fully accounted for yet? In this next clip, a woman is home alone in her apartment during the day when her doorbell rings. Not once, but repeatedly, with no one on the other side. She's filming on her phone, walking slowly toward her front door, and you can already hear in the way she moves that this isn't her first time dealing with something like this. Her voice, cautious at first, calls out in French, asking if anyone's there. The hallway outside is completely empty. She checks the staircase. Nothing. Watch.
Y a quelqu'un?
The doorbell rings 3 times across less than a minute, and each time she opens that door, there's no one there. Not in the hallway, not on the stairs, not anywhere she can see. By the second ring, she sounds exhausted, muttering in French that she's sick of this, that she can't keep going through it. That detail is telling. This isn't shock. It's someone who's been worn down by repetition. Then the third ring hits, and the camera jerks violently as she lets out a sharp, terrified scream. There's something about the third ring that breaks her completely, maybe because she'd already confirmed the space was empty, and it rang anyway. Some believe this kind of recurring, disembodied doorbell activity is consistent with what paranormal researchers call a poltergeist, an entity associated less with haunting a location and more with directing its energy toward a specific person, often escalating over time. Skeptics would say a faulty wireless doorbell could explain it. But a faulty doorbell doesn't explain why she sounds like someone who's been fighting this battle alone for a very long time. So what do you think she's actually dealing with? The following videos appear to be captured by a group of men conducting what looks like a paranormal investigation inside a cluttered, dimly lit room, the kind of space that already feels charged before anything unusual happens, with old stained walls, worn furniture, and objects arranged almost as if they've been placed there intentionally. The men are speaking Romanian throughout, and at one point, one of them can be heard reciting what sounds like a religious confession, solemn, almost liturgical, which sets a tone that's hard to shake. Watch.
Mărturisesc că sunt vinovat focului de veci, viermilor neadormiți. Vai de mine! Vai de mine, ce-a fost asta? Oi, să învârtească scaun! Vai de mine, ai văzut? Doi, să învârtească. Mamă, frate, ce-a fost asta? Uite așa să învârtească scaun. Vai de mine, dacă l-am... Vai, Leo, ce-a fost asta? Mamă, frate, am prins-o pe cameră, jur. Oi, hai-te, mă, că... Viermilor neadormiți. Vai de mine! Vai de mine, ce-a fost asta?
A wooden chair in the adjacent room violently tips over backwards with a loud crash, with no visible person anywhere near it, and the men immediately erupt into panicked shouting, one of them yelling that the chair spun on its own, another asking what on earth just happened. The slow motion replay makes it even harder to dismiss, because you can see the full arc of the movement with nothing and no one initiating it. Some viewers think the prayer being recited at the exact moment of impact is the most unsettling detail, not because it's evidence of anything specific, but because it raises the question of whether something was already being invited in before the camera was even rolling. In Romanian folk tradition, reciting confessions aloud in a spiritually charged space is sometimes believed to provoke a response from entities that feed on guilt or unresolved spiritual debt. And if that chair moving was the beginning, what came next suggests it was far from over. Not long after, the activity shifted from a single object to something far more chaotic.
Gata, gata, adă farfurile repede. Adă repede farfurile. Băi, în picior mi-o dat, măi. Adă repede, fac, gata, opriți tot. Uite, 2 căni, da. Gata, opriți-vă. Opriți înregistrarea. Cu plăcere, da, da. Băi, băi, băi.
2 white ceramic mugs are violently thrown from a cabinet on the far side of the room, one shattering completely on the floor, sending shards and reddish liquid across a striped rug. And then just as the men start to collect themselves, a second loud bang sends another object flying, one of them saying it struck his leg. The men's dialogue is raw and unfiltered, someone telling them to stop recording, another voice responding, possibly from a device in the room, with pleasure. That detail alone stopped a lot of viewers cold. Whether it came from a spirit box or an electronic device picking up a stray signal, nobody has been able to confirm it. But the pattern is hard to ignore. First a chair, now mugs thrown with enough force to shatter and injure, which is exactly the kind of escalation poltergeist activity tends to follow, starting with isolated movements and progressing steadily toward objects making contact with people. The men's reactions, the way they scramble, the way one of them just says, "Enough, stop everything," don't read as performance. They investigated anyway, Watch closely.
Îndrăznind de alerg la milostivirea ta cu frică și cu cutremur. Cu cutremur, mă. Ia! Cât am greșit ție. Băi, fii atent. Vai de capul meu. Ia, că-o căzut tot. Ia, că-o căzut tot bastoanele, au căzut tot, băi, omule, băi. Ia bastonul. Ia bastonul din smântână, de unde? Că nu mai este niciun baston nimic. Gata e. E gata e. Ia vezi, că și pune poate. Vezi, aici. Nu ai mă, să dea draci dacă e ceva, tu ești nebun. Azi voi acolo pe bastonul iar. Lasă-o în pizdă, mă. Nu e frate niciun baston nimic. Iar este, bag lumina pe partea asta. Da. Bagă și după aia, bagă și după asta. Da, că nu-i nimic. Nimica, a? Nimica, frate, dispără bastonul, iar gata. Și de desubt acolo? Nimic. Nimic acolo, nimic. Uite păpușa asta deșurată. Și eu preotul. Bă, uitați-o cu dulapul cum se mișcă singur, mă, frate, tu ești nebun. Ah! Unde-s, măi? Nu-i niciun baston. Uite. Uite țăpă ăsta, uite. Niciun baston, nimic. Uite. 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 Uite, cade bila jos, acum. Uite dulapul care se mișcă singur, uite, nu-i legat cu nimic, uite. Uite. Voi sunteți nebuni, băi? Băi, noi când v-am zis că... Băi, nu mai există, gata, încăpere. Nu mai există încăpere, ca să știți. Noi suntem numărul 1, suntem. Hai de mine, ce-a fost asta? Ce-a fost asta? E jale, mâncați așa. Stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm. Calm down. Odată cu ce-odată. Hai, au reușit, stați calmi. Gata, a terminat-o, hai. Stay calm. Adu bastonul ca înapoi. Trebuie să fac carte aici, într-un pic. Portal îmi trebuie. Portalul îmi trebuie. E sub dulap bastonul.
Objects on a small wooden cabinet begin vibrating and sliding on their own before two walking canes, propped against the wall, are forcefully thrown to the floor. Then the entire cabinet jolts and shakes as if grabbed from beneath, and a sharp, unexplained bang erupts from somewhere off camera, sending the men stumbling backward. One of them mentions closing a portal, which suggests they weren't just observing, but had been actively attempting some form of spiritual communication beforehand. And if something had been deliberately summoned, the escalating violence of these responses starts to feel less like random activity and more like something reacting with increasing irritation. The missing cane is arguably the strangest detail. Investigators can only account for one of the two that fell, and despite searching the area thoroughly, the second one never turns up on camera. A quiet footnote that somehow lands harder than the chaos around it. So what do you think? Was this group of men simply documenting a haunted space, or did they walk into that room and wake something up that had no interest in being observed? In this next clip, a woman is home alone at night, or at least she believes she is, when she notices something standing behind the frosted glass panel of her bathroom door. She's filming on her phone, her voice dropping to a hushed, anxious whisper as she explains in Spanish that she can see the shape from where she's standing, but the phone's reflection keeps getting in the way. She says she literally can't go to the bathroom in peace because of whoever or whatever is there. Then she moves through the house, down a dark hallway with light cutting in from a room at the far end, before showing her bedroom to prove a point. Watch.
Yo de acá lo veo, pero el celular le da el reflejo. Literalmente no puedo ir al baño tranquila porque está él. Y no hay nadie en la casa. Nadie de nadie está en la casa.
Through the textured glass of that door, you can make out a dark, humanoid silhouette, a head and shoulders, motionless, standing just on the other side. She walks the camera through the rest of the house, showing an empty bedroom, an unmade bed, no one anywhere. No one is in the house. she says. No one at all. That tension between what she sees and what should logically be there is hard to shake. Some viewers think it's a shadow cast by an object or a trick of the light bouncing off the frosted glass. Others aren't so sure because the shape is too specific, the rounded head, the width of the shoulders, to easily dismiss. That alone is unsettling. But what makes the second clip arguably worse is how calm everything is before it happens. Her and her husband are in bed watching television, relaxed, covered in blankets when this happens.
En el mejor de los casos, la hemorragia se absorbe. Otro tribunal la hemorragia y hará que el cerebro se inflame. ¿Qué significa eso?
The blanket covering the man's left shoulder is suddenly yanked downward with a sharp, forceful tug. Fast, violent, and completely without explanation. And a distinct swooshing sound goes with it. He flinches immediately, looking down toward his right. She turns her head in the same direction. There's no one else in the frame. Some believe what was caught is classic poltergeist behavior, physical interference with objects in an otherwise calm domestic space, the kind of activity that tends to escalate when ignored. Skeptics will point to the static camera and suggest it was staged, but the couple's reaction is immediate and looks genuinely startled. Whether these two clips are connected or not, they both carry the same unsettling thread, the idea that something might be sharing a space that's supposed to be private. And like and subscribe if you're enjoying watching this video. What would you do if you started seeing shapes behind closed doors in your own home? In the following footage, a Reddit user known as Melodic District 264 captures a series of events in what appears to be a service corridor or a storage section of an apartment complex. According to the uploader, he only began recording after hearing a distinct, violent sound while his back was turned. The sound of a heavy, yellow cable being smacked against the wall by an unseen force. He decided to investigate the source of the noise, venturing into the hallway with his phone camera ready. What he captures is a manifestation of movement that is difficult to explain through natural drafts or structural settling. Take a look.
Nigga, something just smacked the fuck. Yo, nigga, what I say, nigga? I mean, I ain't that scared, but no mames.
The footage shows a yellow cable suddenly tensioned and whipped against the wall with enough force to create an audible crack. In an area like this, one might look for a logical explanation, such as a localized gust of wind, but the way the cable is pulled back before the snap suggests a deliberate physical grip. Furthermore, as the camera pans toward the shadows at the end of the corridor, the atmosphere feels heavy, as if the camera is capturing a residual energy left behind in the bowels of the building. The uploader was so disturbed by the physical nature of this manifestation that he shared the footage seeking an explanation for the escalating activity. While skeptics might suggest a hidden line or a snag in the building's infrastructure, the speed and isolation of the movement remain baffling. Is it possible that the utility areas of buildings, often neglected and empty, can play host to this kind of unsettling activity? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In December of 2025, Daisy Summer shared a series of distress calls from her home. According to Daisy, the atmosphere in her house had shifted significantly, characterized by peculiar sounds echoing through the halls during the late night hours. The following footage captures her attempt to document the anomaly after a particularly unsettling encounter while she was getting ready for work. Her distress is palpable as she recounts seeing something in her bathroom that defied logic. Keep your eyes on the shadow extending from behind the bathroom door.
Holy shit, I was just getting ready for work and I freaking saw something in my bathroom that scared the freaking shit out of me. I don't know what it was, but it looked like a ghost. Like literally, I think I just saw a ghost. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of my house. I'm so scared. It was like right there where those shadows are. Those are shadows from the towel right there. But there was like a shadow right there where those other shadows are. And it looked like a person. It looked like a ghost. Like right there. Oh shit. Holy fuck! Ah!
You can see a dark, elongated mass is visible near the floor, seemingly separate from the natural shadows cast by the surrounding furniture. While some viewers initially suggested it was merely a trick of the light, the escalation occurs toward the very end of the clip. Just as she pans away, a dark protrusion, resembling a head or a limb, briefly extends from behind the doorframe into the hallway before she bolts in terror. The movement is fluid and lacks the jagged quality of a digital artifact or a camera glitch. In the realm of paranormal research, this behavior is often associated with shadow people, entities that are frequently reported as peeking from corners or lurking in the periphery of vision. Many researchers believe these manifestations are not just residual hauntings, but sentient entities that feed off of high-frequency human emotions, specifically fear and anxiety. By peeking out and then retreating, the entity may be deliberately testing Daisy, gauging her reaction to maximize the emotional output it can draw from her. Some viewers in the comments suggested that Daisy's sheer terror might actually be strengthening the entity's presence. One user suggested that instead of fleeing, she should have met the anomaly with anger or annoyance, theorizing that by removing the food source of fear, the entity would lose its ability to manifest physically. What do you think? Was this a temporary overlap of dimensions, or a predatory entity thriving on the atmosphere of a frightened household? This next clip explores the thin line between grief and the supernatural, where a house once filled with life suddenly feels hollow. In late 2024, Tonya Richardson began documenting what she believes is the residual energy of her beloved Maltese, Frenchie, who had passed away 5 months prior. Tonya explains that Frenchie had a very specific habit. She loved to burrow under the blankets and playfully chase Tonya's feet. What began as a memory soon manifested as a physical occurrence that Tonya captures in real time. The setting is her quiet bedroom, where the blankets begin to shift in a manner that is uncannily familiar. Take a look.
Y'all see that? My feet are literally right here. My blanket will just randomly move like that. That is so weird. Stop! Y'all, my hair standing on my arms, because that's creepy. It does this about the same time every morning. So I'm not sure what it is trying to tell me something, but it's creepy.
The movement captured is both fluid and localized. You can see the duvet bunching and sliding as if a small weight is pressing against it from underneath. While a draft or a mechanical fan might cause a light ripple, this particular motion has a distinct hopping quality. The blanket doesn't just flutter, it appears to be nudged by a deliberate physical force. It's an unsettling sight, yet Tonya speaks to the empty space with a sense of comfort, convinced that Frenchie has returned to her favorite spot. However, as the days passed, the activity didn't just remain a comfort, it became more frequent and intense. Skeptics often point to simple explanations like hidden pets or household fans, but Tonya was determined to rule out any logical interference. To provide context for the escalation, she decided to pull back the veil and show exactly what or what isn't behind the movement.
My baby come to see me again. Frenchie, what you doing? What you doing? Are you gonna play tonight? Are you gonna play? There you are. Hello. Hello? What you doing? What you doing, baby? You trying to find the right spot? Just not finding the right spot, huh? Oh, look. Nothing under the bed. Look. Nothing under the sheets. Nothing there. Nothing there.
The most baffling part of this footage occurs when Tonya lifts the heavy comforter. As she clears the area, the movement stops instantly, and the space beneath the sheets is completely empty. She even goes as far as to show the area under the bed, proving there are no other pets or hidden devices that could be tethered to the fabric. The ghostly weight seems to vanish the moment it's observed directly, a pattern often noted in poltergeist-style manifestations, where an entity reacts to direct human focus. In the paranormal community, some believe these fur baby hauntings are beautiful signs of a bond that transcends death. Others, however, take a more cautious approach. There is a theory that certain opportunistic entities can mimic the behaviors of a lost loved one or pet to gain trust and lower a person's spiritual guard. By imitating the kangaroo jumping style Frenchie was known for, an anomaly could potentially root itself in the home by feeding off the residents' grief and longing. Whether this is a heartwarming visit from a loyal companion or a more deceptive manifestation remains a topic of heavy debate among viewers. Some find the footage profoundly moving, while others feel an instinctual dread at the sight of the empty sheets shifting on their own. I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. This next clip highlights just how quickly a familiar space can turn hostile. In January of 2026, Perry and her roommate were at home alone when they were startled by a series of inexplicable sounds. The atmosphere within the apartment shifted from relaxed to high alert in a matter of seconds, as the duo began to suspect they weren't as alone as they thought. The footage captures their immediate reaction, and the sheer urgency in their body language is undeniable. Take a look.
I'm recording. Wait. Do you hear that? Can you check the security footage? What is it?
The panic is palpable as they move through the apartment, whispering and checking corners. Rather than risk exiting through the front door, where the sounds seemed to originate, the two roommates were so convinced of an intruder that they opted to flee through a window instead. However, the mystery only deepened when they later reviewed their security footage. A motion-sensing camera pointed at the kitchen began to track an invisible presence. The software identifies a person in the empty space just above a robot vacuum cleaner, tracking the anomaly as it moves across the floor. Yet nothing is visible to the human eye. The escalation continued throughout the night, with the roommates capturing further evidence that suggests something far more complex than a simple intruder. In this follow-up, the camera captures the heavy front door mysteriously unlatching and swinging open of its own accord. There is no visible hand on the handle, and the roommates are nowhere near the entrance. In the paranormal world, this kind of activity is often categorized as a skinwalker manifestation or a highly active poltergeist, particularly when senses are triggered by empty space. Some viewers pointed out that the way the sensor tracked the movement above the vacuum suggests an entity with a distinct height and mass, even if it remains shrouded from the light spectrum. While skeptics might suggest a draft or a mechanical failure in the door latch, the combination of the roommate's genuine fear and the camera's technical detection of a person makes this case particularly baffling. Could there be something dwelling within the walls of the apartment, or perhaps a transient entity that followed one of them home? If your security system alerted you to a person in an empty room, would you stay to see if it manifested, or would you be the first one out the window? This next clip takes us inside a veterinary hospital, a place often charged with high stakes and deep emotional transitions. In late 2025, a veterinary professional named Renee shared footage that has left many in the medical community questioning what happens in these clinics after hours. Renee explains that while staying late to care for a sick colleague's pet and a puppy battling parvovirus, she and her co-worker, Tessia, were interrupted by a sound that simply didn't belong. The atmosphere in the treatment room becomes tense as a phantom vocalization echoes through the sterile environment. Take a look.
That's weird. Where is that coming from? It don't sound like it's coming from. Okay, so you still want to do banana bags, 15 mils an hour, head of starch, 4 mils an hour. It's coming from over this way. Alright. Medication, metronidazole, 15 mils BID, Wait, is it Scarlet? Wait. I clamped it off before getting meds. Is somebody dropping it off up there? That's coming from up there. They may have done that when they switched the bag. Is it the new bag for it? No. Alright, who's not gonna help me? It's in the lobby. It's coming from the lobby. No, it's not. Where is that? It's not in here. What is that? What, phantom dolls? That's fucking weird. Is it Charles? You heard that, right? We all heard that. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. What did you hear? A dog keeps yapping. Is it Dakota? No. Look at this thing over here. Why don't you look in the front porch and make sure I didn't dump one or throw one in the pen outside or something? I didn't hear anything. You're not hearing that. Three of us heard it. I didn't hear it, no. You heard it, right? I heard it. I didn't hear it. It sounds like it's coming from this side. You can't hear the iPhone though, right? No. Look at that fence out there. It makes you somebody throw one in the fence. I heard nothing. I was like, what are y'all talking about? Yeah, that's a brand new bag. That's fucking bizarre. Yeah. That's I haven't heard it. I still haven't heard it. All three of us heard it. And it was coming from that. It sounded like it was in that room or something. Like it sounded like it was like right playing the board. We're gonna play that back. I didn't even hear anything. Can you play it like specifically in those rooms or anything?
As you can hear, a distinct, mournful canine cry fills the room. Renee notes that there were only 4 animals present at the time: a cat, an elderly Great Dane, the sick puppy, and an old healer. None of them were vocalizing, yet the sound is clear and persistent. In paranormal research, hospitals and clinics are often cited as hotspots for residual energy, places where intense life and death moments leave a permanent echo. Some believe this could be the spirit of a recently euthanized pet, perhaps still seeking comfort in a familiar setting. However, the activity at this hospital isn't limited to just sound. Renee later shared surveillance footage from the kennel area that suggests a much more physical presence. In this chilling follow-up, watch the latch of one of the cages closely. Without any visible interference, the metal lever is seen rising on its own. When the door doesn't swing open immediately, it appears to be pulled outward by an unseen force, allowing the animal inside to potentially wander out. There are no shadows, no reflections of people in the room, and no mechanical failures that would explain a multi-step process like unlatching and then pulling a door. This level of physical manipulation often points to an intelligent haunting, an entity capable of interacting with its environment to achieve a specific goal. While skeptics might suggest a loose latch or a vibration from the building, the deliberate nature of the opening is hard to dismiss. Is it possible that the bond between humans and animals is so strong that even in death, these patients stay behind to navigate the only place that tried to save them? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. If you were working a night shift and heard a phantom cry from an empty kennel, would you shrug it off as a residual echo, or would you start looking for a new clinic? In this clip you're about to watch, a mum and her husband had been noticing things around their house that just didn't add up. Small stuff at first, the kind of thing you brush off and blame on stress or a long day. But when it keeps happening, you stop brushing it off and you start setting up cameras. They installed one the night before this was filmed, and it took less than 24 hours to catch something. She gets up from the little bouncy ball seat to put her baby down for a nap. A completely ordinary Tuesday afternoon moment. And that's when the ball starts moving on its own. No one near it, no draft, no pet bumping into it. Just a slow, deliberate sway that has absolutely no business happening in an empty room. Now here's what stands out the most. The movement isn't frantic or violent, it's almost calm, like whatever is in that house is just making its presence known, casual about it even. And that detail matters, because it tells us this isn't a one-time spike of energy. This is something comfortable, something that's been there long enough to feel at home. One thing that some paranormal researchers actually suggest in situations like this is acknowledging the presence out loud, letting it know you're aware of it, but firmly stating you want to be left alone. Some people swear by it. Whether it works consistently or not is a whole other conversation. But the fact that people reach for that strategy tells you something. Sometimes the most unsettling thing isn't the activity itself, it's the feeling that something is listening. And whatever is in this house, it's definitely listening, because the activity doesn't stop there. She's home alone this time when the camera picks up something that stops you cold right at the top of the footage. A male voice, clear enough to make you rewind it twice, says something that sounds exactly like, "Wash your hands with soap." That is a full sentence, spoken by a voice that has no physical body attached to it. And what makes it even more unnerving is how mundane it is. It's not a growl or a scream, it's instructions. Like something that used to live in that space is still going through the motions of daily life, completely unbothered by the fact that it's dead. This kind of EVP, where a disembodied voice speaks in plain, conversational language, is actually more commonly reported than people realize. There are accounts of people walking through a completely empty room and suddenly hearing a man's voice speak directly to them, close enough to feel like someone is standing right next to them. It never gets less terrifying, no matter how many times you hear it described. The third piece of footage is what really shifts this from active haunting to something potentially more layered. Her husband had just finished mounting a new camera in the hallway, and they were checking the angle on her phone when the camera picks up what sounds unmistakably like a child giggling. Her husband heard it with his own ears in real time. Their son was in his room playing, accounted for. But here's the detail that makes your skin crawl. His camera cut out at the exact moment the giggle was captured, and in the footage from his room, just seconds before, there's a faint whisper buried underneath the sound of him playing with his toys.
They'll pull on. Well, actually, I think they pull on their ears when they're teething, so I need to look it up. Nice. What? I don't know if he's discovered his ear and that's why he's playing with it, or if it hurts.
So what are we actually dealing with here? The combination of a calm, domestic presence moving objects, a male voice issuing mundane commands, and what sounds like a child's laughter points towards something layered, possibly multiple energies occupying the same space. In paranormal theory, a location that accumulates this kind of varied activity often acts as an anchor point, drawing in different residual imprints over time. But the fact that the son's camera cut out precisely during that giggle suggests something more intelligent than residual, something that's not just replaying the past, something that's aware of the cameras, aware of the family, and apparently fully settled in. So, what do you think? Is this family sharing their home with leftover echoes of the past, or is something far more intentional making itself comfortable in their house? In this next clip, Joe's mum told him back in 2019 that she was fighting demons in her house. And look, most of us would do exactly what Joe did, which is smile, nod, and quietly wonder if mum needs a vacation. But she wasn't asking him to take her word for it. She sent him footage, and whatever is in that video is very difficult to explain away. Up in the top right corner of the frame, there's a dark shape descending from the ceiling, not drifting, not floating, but coming down with a kind of slow, deliberate intention. Then she pans the camera away, and when she brings it back, it's gone, clean, like it was never there. But just when you're ready to chalk it up to a shadow or a trick of the light, it comes back.
In 2019, my mom said she was fighting demons in her apartment. I didn't believe her. She sent me video proof. Now someone tell me what in the grudge shit was going on here. I put picture at end of video, pause it, turn phone upside down and zoom in.
That reappearance is the detail that kills every rational explanation. Shadows don't leave and come back. Lens flares don't take a break and return on cue. Whatever this is, it's moving with awareness. In demonology, entities that descend from above rather than emerge from corners or doorways are considered particularly aggressive. They aren't wandering, they're approaching. The fact that Joe's mum used the word fighting and not experiencing tells you everything about what living in that house actually felt like. So, what do you think? Residual energy or something that came there with a purpose? This next clip was posted by a frightened mother, and you'll understand why the moment you watch it. But before you do, here's what you need to know. The little girl had already told her mom that someone was in the bedroom before any of this was recorded. Not something, someone. Specific enough that she grabbed her mom by the arm and asked her not to go in, not to open the door, not to even get close. What you're about to watch isn't a child being dramatic about the dark or spiraling over nothing. This is a little girl who has seen something, who knows exactly what she saw, and who is not willing, under any circumstances, to let her mother walk back into that room.
Blakey, you okay?
There's nothing you can do or say to change that.
Do you want me to go open the door? Why? No?
Sucks for you.
Okay. Okay, I'm honestly freaking the fuck out and I don't know what to do. Just a couple minutes ago, I got up and I closed my door because she kept pointing to my room saying, Mommy, Mommy, someone's over there. And she was terrified. She was terrified. Of course, freaking me out. So I went over there and she just said, no, Mommy, come here, Mommy, sit, Mommy, don't go over there. And so I called the dog and I closed the motherfucking door. And as you can see, dude, she's still terrified. She doesn't want me going over there. She doesn't want me to open the door. Dude, I'm terrified.
The mom tries to reason with her, ask if she can just go open the door, keep it quick, nothing to worry about. And the answer is a firm, unwavering no. The kind of no that doesn't come from imagination. It comes from certainty. From a child who has already made up her mind about what's in there and doesn't understand why the adults around her aren't listening. But that was only the beginning of what this family captured that night. Because eventually, the mum does what every parent torn between protecting their child and finding a rational explanation has to do. She gets up. She tells her daughter she's going to check the room, keeps her voice steady and calm the way parents do when they're trying hard not to transfer their own fear onto their kid. And the little girl's response is immediate. She hides her face. And then she starts to cry. The kind of crying that comes from genuine terror, from watching someone you love walk towards something you know is there and being completely powerless to stop them.
Blakey, Mommy's gonna go open the door, okay? I'll be right back. It's okay. I'll be right back. And now she's hiding her face. Dude, what the fuck? It's okay, baby. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, tell me I'm not... What do I do?
Now here's what you can't explain away. There is a belief that runs through almost every culture that has ever documented paranormal encounters. That children, particularly young ones, exist in a state of perception that adults lost somewhere along the way. That in growing up, in learning to categorize and rationalize and explain the world, we close off something we were born with. And that what looks like an overactive imagination in a frightened child is sometimes something else entirely. A clarity that the adults around them simply no longer have the equipment to access. Children that age don't sustain manufactured fear. They move on, get distracted, and forget. But this little girl didn't forget. Hours later, she still wouldn't let her mum anywhere near that room, a room she normally runs into without a second thought. Whatever she saw in there, it left a mark. So what do you think? Was there something in that room that only she could see? Or is this a case of a child's instincts picking up on something the rest of us have long since lost the ability to feel? In this next clip, we're stepping inside Willard Library in Evansville, Indiana, one of the oldest public libraries in the state, built in 1885, and by most accounts, never fully emptied of its original occupants. The Stillroom Society, a group dedicated to investigating real hauntings and unexplained encounters, brought their equipment here on January 17th, 2026, and what they captured is exactly the kind of thing that makes a location's reputation stick. The library's most famous resident is known as the Grey Lady, an apparition that staff and visitors have been reporting for decades, wandering the corridors, triggering cold spots, flickering lights, and sending books off shelves with no one nearby to explain it. She's become so embedded in the identity of this place that people plan trips specifically hoping to cross her path.
I can hear you back there. Why don't you show yourself to me? I know this is your home, and I mean you no disrespect. I'm just curious about you, like why you're here and who you are. My name's Missy. I'd love to know more about you.
Now here's what makes Willard different from your standard allegedly haunted building. This isn't a location that earned its reputation from one dramatic incident and a few embellished retellings. The activity here has been consistent, documented, and reported independently by people who had no idea others had experienced the exact same things before them. That's the detail that separates a legend from something that actually warrants investigation. Cold spots in fixed locations, lights responding to no electrical fault, books that don't just fall, they fall from locked cases. The Grey Lady isn't a story someone made up to fill a slow news cycle. She's a pattern, and the Stillroom Society didn't have to wait long for the library to remind them why they came. The building is completely empty during the second part of this footage. No staff, no visitors, no one moving through those corridors, and yet the cameras pick up sounds that have no business being there. Knocks, shuffling, the kind of audio that your brain immediately tries to assign a source to and comes up empty every single time.
If you peek out, I'll be able to see you.
We're up in the genealogy part of the library, and
What's significant here isn't just the sounds themselves, it's the consistency of where they're coming from and the fact that they respond to the investigator's presence. A truly empty building doesn't generate directional noise. When a location this old starts producing that kind of audio with no physical source attached, you're likely dealing with residual energy so deeply embedded in the architecture that it practically has its own schedule. Over 140 years of footsteps, whispered conversations, and human emotion soaked into the walls and the floors. Some locations don't just hold history, they replay it. So what do you think? Is the Grey Lady still making her rounds through the stacks, or is Willard Library simply too old and too full of the past to ever really go quiet? In the following clip you're about to watch, we take a midnight stroll through Tokyo's Aoyama Cemetery, a location legendary for its haunting history and ghost sightings. Most people are completely terrified to even step foot on these grounds after dark, but one brave explorer decided to walk through the shadows to see what the fuss was all about. While navigating the dark pathways, he suddenly hears a distinct cat meowing that startles him in the quiet night. His reaction was quick as he pans the camera towards the cemetery. However, when he watched the footage back, his camera picked up absolutely no trace of the feline's voice. But the missing audio isn't the most disturbing part of the walk. If you look carefully, when the camera turns into the cemetery area, a dark, shadow-like entity can be seen lingering amidst the tombstones. He was completely oblivious to its presence in the moment, not until people in the comments pointed his attention to it. So what exactly was stalking him from the dark, and why did it mask itself? In paranormal research, entities often use auditory trickery, known as phantom sounds, to disorient or distract a person. This could be an earthbound spirit, perhaps a residual energy of someone buried there, projecting the familiar sound of a meowing cat to lower his guard. By mimicking a harmless domestic animal, the spirit may have been trying to siphon his kinetic energy or lure him off the path while its shadow form observed him from the safety of the graves. Was this just a lonely soul using a familiar sound to draw a living connection, or was a predatory entity trying to lure him deeper into the dark? In this next clip, an explorer decides to investigate a reported ghost sighting in the dense woods near his home. Equipped with a borrowed color night shot camera, he ventures out alone after dark to see if there is any truth to the local rumors. The initial atmosphere is completely still, but as he scans the tree line, he catches sight of a strange, pale anomaly shifting between the trees. He tries his best to steady his hands and zoom in for a better look, but whatever the entity is, it dissolves back into the shadows just as quickly as it appeared.
Where's it gone? There was something there. Sure I saw something. Where is it? It was around here somewhere. It was here somewhere, but it's gone. I don't know where it is.
But the story didn't end in the forest. On a separate night, the creator experienced a deeply unsettling scenario. The realization that whatever presence you disturb in the wild might just follow you back to your personal space. While checking on a sudden disturbance in his own backyard, his camera picks up another pale, ambiguous figure moving stealthily behind the bushes. In paranormal research, a sequence like this is heavily associated with a concept known as spiritual attachment. The theory suggests that entities aren't always anchored to a single geographic location. Instead, when an individual enters their domain with a high level of hyperfocus, anticipation, and adrenaline, that intense emotional output can act like a beacon. The entity is thought to absorb this energy, using it as fuel to latch onto the investigator and follow them straight back to their home property. However, this footage has sparked an intense debate, and the skeptics make some incredibly strong arguments against it. Those who believe the video is fake point out that the heavy camera, shaking, sudden blurs, and rapid panning are classic techniques used to mask video edits or hide a practical effect, like a person in light clothing. Furthermore, early night shot cameras were notorious for heavy compression, meaning a stray reflection or a common nocturnal animal could easily be distorted into a ghostly shape. On the flip side, there are reasons to believe it could be genuine. Defenders of the clip point out the organic way the figure blends behind the complex, overlapping layers of branches, a feat that would have been remarkably difficult to cleanly render with consumer-grade digital editing software back when this was originally filmed. They also argue that the ambient audio and the raw tension in his breathing sound entirely unscripted. This leaves us with a classic supernatural dilemma. Was this just a clever piece of doctored footage meant to create an internet hoax? Or did this man genuinely capture an entity that followed him home from the woods? I'll let you decide. In this next clip, an Uber Eats driver named Marcus captures a bizarre chain of events while making a late-night delivery right next to a cemetery. While on his route, he begins hearing a heavy tapping and vibrating sound against his passenger window. With no one visible outside, he pulls over to check the exterior of his vehicle and see if something is caught underneath. While investigating outside, Marcus points his camera toward a discarded shoe sitting on a piece of cardboard by the curb, which suddenly shifts on its own. He quickly gets back into the driver's seat, but the situation escalates further when the passenger door unlatches and swings wide open completely by itself. What makes this sequence even more unusual is what Marcus discovered only after reviewing his dashcam footage later on. The interior camera shows a faint, translucent anomaly hopping directly through the closed passenger window just before the window began vibrating.
Doing my usual Uber eating, dropping off some food. I swear this whole address gotta be set by a cemetery, bro. I see this again, I'm just not gonna accept it. I'll tell you that. I'm not tripping. No. Make sure I'm not tripping. So, I'm dropping off the DoorDash. The Uber eating. I can't even get my daggone company straight. And you're gonna see a vibration. But see tapping at the window. You're definitely gonna hear it. What the fuck? What the fuck was... Oh, hell no. Hell no. Ouais. Non, non. Oh hell, what the fuck was shit? Shit, me. Shit. Oh, hell, no. Hell. Oh, no. Nope. No. No. No.
In paranormal research, proximity to a cemetery significantly increases the likelihood of encountering active spiritual energy. Graveyards are massive repositories of residual human history, and entities lingering in these spaces are frequently drawn to the bright headlights and kinetic energy of passing vehicles. The anomaly caught on the interior camera points toward a deliberate manifestation attempt. Because spirits lack a physical form, they must manipulate nearby objects, like the roadside shoe, or generate intense kinetic force to make their presence known, which directly explains the sudden, heavy vibrations on the window glass. Furthermore, unlatching and opening the heavy car door suggests the entity was executing a clear progression of activity, moving from outside disturbances to a physical invasion of Marcus's personal space. By utilizing the ambient energy of the environment, the presence managed to cross structural boundaries that would normally keep the physical world separate from the spiritual. So, do you think Marcus unwittingly invited a restless soul into his passenger seat? Or was this cemetery entity actively looking for a way to escape the confines of the graveyard? In this next clip, we look at a video captured by parents during a normal family gathering. At the start, a toddler is sitting calmly until his attention is drastically pulled toward the center of the room. His eyes clearly track an invisible path left and right, and he begins pointing towards something, following a trajectory that his parents completely miss. He then begins imitating the unseen presence, gesturing as if interacting with something right in front of him.
Non! Il est drôle avec son petit nom, hein? Il est vraiment dans le Rebel 2, là, tu sais. Qu'est-ce que tu checkes là? C'est des fantômes, mon amour! Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Hein? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Quoi? Hein? Quoi? Parle! 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 Non! C'est comme, c'est moi la peste, si. Je vais parler, mais ça me tente. Je m'inquiète pas, tu vas parler en tabarouette. Ah ben non, on va dire, Colin, t'en rappelles-tu quand il parlait pas? Est-ce qu'on était bien, hein? Parce qu'il va me poser plein de questions tout le temps. Pourquoi papa ça? Pourquoi papa ça? Pourquoi maman ça? Pourquoi maman ça? On va bénir le temps où il faisait juste encore des sons.
Alex, il est tard.
Si je vois pas le bas de la queue.
C'est bien, bien, on va voir juste l'armoire là.
Non, on le voyait super bien.
Il a caché là. Il vient de cacher qu'il est filmé là.
Là, tu peux te filmer là. Tu peux te filmer encore.
L'as oublié. Non. Oh ouais. Arrête pas de manger l'assiette, elle l'eau. Oh.
Tes dents.
C'est bon là. Là, comment on va la stabiliser, la zone? C'est quoi que tu vas mettre pour la figer là? Moi, il y a personne qui t'avait donné à manger, hein?
Young children are widely believed to possess a heightened sensitivity to spiritual phenomena. The underlying theory suggests that toddlers have not yet developed the psychological filters or rational skepticism that adults use to dismiss unusual sensory data, leaving their perception open to subtle environmental shifts and entities. In this instance, the child's reaction is not a gradual drift into daydreaming, but a sudden and deliberate engagement with a specific spot in the room. His physical tracking and imitation imply he is observing a clear visual stimulus. This could indicate an interaction with a residual energy signature or an intelligent spirit, perhaps a deceased relative, visiting the household. What do you think caught this toddler's eye? Was it just a sudden burst of a vivid imagination, or are young children genuinely capable of seeing things adults cannot? In this next clip, a family grieving a loss experiences a beautiful and bizarre moment of farewell. The on-screen text translates to, "If they hadn't recorded it, we wouldn't have believed it," as the family describes their belief that their deceased sister used a white, star-shaped foil balloon to navigate the house one last time to say goodbye and apologize to her brother. As you watch, the balloon moves down the hallway and enters the bedroom, where the brother is sitting quietly on the edge of the bed. Instead of drifting aimlessly toward the ceiling or being erratically pushed by a draft, the balloon appears to travel along a deliberate path, hovering directly in front of the young man. The most compelling detail occurs toward the end of the footage, when the brother suddenly flinches and stands up quickly from the bed, reacting as if someone had just physically touched him. Watch. Lightweight objects like balloons are frequently reported as mediums used by spirits to communicate, as they require very little kinetic energy to manipulate or guide. The family firmly interprets this event as a genuine spiritual farewell, dedicating the footage with the message, "Siempre vas a estar con nosotros, mi reina," which translates to, "You will always be with us, my queen." So what do you think? Was this an extraordinary coincidence involving indoor air currents, or did a grieving brother receive a tangible, physical sign from his sister? In this clip you're about to watch, a real estate photographer was doing what he's paid to do, walking through an old house, documenting the space, keeping it professional. But from the moment he stepped inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Not the vague, general unease you get from an unfamiliar place, something more specific than that. Something that followed him from room to room like a second heartbeat he couldn't account for. He comes down the staircase, camera rolling, and that's when it happens. Behind him, you can hear the distinct sound of footsteps, and a shadow moves down the stairs like something is following him, step by step, unhurried, unbothered by the fact that he might turn around at any moment. He's the only person in that house. There is no one above him on that staircase, no one on the landing, no one anywhere in the building. And yet, whatever cast that shadow came down those stairs the same way a person would, with weight, with rhythm, and with intention, like it had walked that staircase 100 times before and had every right to keep doing it. Whatever this was, it was aware of him. It was moving with purpose, and it was comfortable enough in that space to make no effort to hide. So he does what any rational person tries to do. He keeps working, stays focused, and leaves his camera running while he moves through the house. Again, while he's out of frame, the door swings violently open and slams shut completely on its own. Not a slow drift, not a gentle nudge from a cross breeze, but a full, aggressive open and shut that takes real force to produce. The kind of force that doesn't come from air pressure or a settling foundation. In paranormal research, doors are considered one of the most significant objects an entity can interact with because they represent barriers between rooms, between safety and exposure, between the known and the unknown. When an entity manipulates a door with that level of aggression, it isn't residual and it isn't accidental. That is intelligent activity. That is something making a deliberate statement about who actually controls that space. The photographer came in to do a job, but whatever lives in that house had already decided it wasn't interested in having a guest, and it wanted that point made clearly. But what is drawing this kind of energy to this specific location in the first place? That answer might be buried in the ground just outside. There's an old belief, one his dad apparently held firmly, that certain flowers only grow where a body has been laid in the earth, that something in the process of decomposition changes the soil in a way that pulls specific plants to the surface like a quiet botanical confession. Whether that's rooted in something scientifically observable or purely in generations of folklore, people have quietly used it as an informal marker for forgotten graves for a very long time. He goes outside and sure enough, there they are, just sitting in the ground, quiet and unassuming, in a place that suddenly feels a lot heavier than it did before, like the air itself is pressing down a little harder right there. And then he goes back. Because once you've seen something like that, once the weight of what it might mean settles in, you can't just leave it alone. He returns to the area, this time pushing further out to the field on the abandoned farm nearby, looking for grave markers, physical evidence of lives that history decided weren't worth recording, people swallowed up by time and neglect, and a landscape that kept growing over them without pause. And that's when the field starts talking back. Not wind, not an echo bouncing off the tree line. Voices, rising up out of a stretch of land that has been left to rot and be forgotten for years, as if the ground itself had been waiting for someone to come close enough to hear it. And here is where the full picture snaps into focus. The shadow that followed him down the stairs. The door that slammed with enough force to make a point. The flowers growing silently over what might be unmarked graves. And now voices surfacing from a field that may be sitting on top of people who never got a proper burial, never got a headstone, never got anyone coming back to remember them. In paranormal theory, locations built near or above unacknowledged remains act as anchor points, concentrating energy, creating the exact atmospheric conditions that allow entities not just to exist, but to grow stronger over time, pulling more of the dark in around them like a wound that never closed. That house isn't haunted. In spite of what's outside it, it may be haunted because of it. Whatever is moving through those rooms, slamming doors, and casting shadows on staircases could be tethered to what's buried just beneath the surface of that field, fed by it, grounded by it, and completely unbothered by whoever walks through the front door. So what do you think? Is the entity in that house a lost soul anchored to the forgotten graves just outside its walls? Or is something far darker using those remains as a source of power? In this next clip, a singer going by long-winded music on TikTok was doing something completely ordinary, filming a quick video to invite people out to watch her band perform, the kind of casual, throwaway content that takes 30 seconds to record and means nothing beyond the post itself. Except that somewhere between hitting record and hitting post, she captured something in the closet directly behind her that she almost certainly didn't notice in the moment. There's a shadow, a shape, something with enough density to register on camera, shifting inside that closet while she's standing right there, completely unaware. Not a hanger swaying, not a curtain catching air, a figure moving with the kind of slow deliberateness that puts it in a completely different category from anything you'd want to explain away.
I just want to know how I can get people to come to our shows. How do we get people to come to our shows? No, I'm just trying to understand. Tell me it doesn't look like there's someone right here. There's not.
And that's what makes this one stick. She wasn't ghost hunting. She wasn't in an abandoned building. She wasn't even trying to capture anything beyond a 30-second promo for her band. She was in her own space, in what should have been the most familiar and safe environment she knows. And something was standing in her closet, watching her film. In paranormal research, entities that appear in domestic spaces during completely mundane moments are considered far more unsettling than anything caught on a dedicated investigation, because it means there's no threshold, no special condition required for them to show up. So what do you think? Was that something passing through, or does long-winded music have a permanent audience she never agreed to?